All right, everybody, it's Jonathon and Travis back for another edition of the Southern Ontario Dirt Show. And Travis, things are picking up. How are you doing, my friend?
Good, Jonathan, as always. Another week talking to you. Always have fun doing these, and hopefully you're doing good too.
Yeah, it's been a good week, been a busy week. Lots of stuff not racing related going on right now, but then there's also a lot of racing content to get into. So,
Yep.
looking forward to that and start to tackle it. You want to start with maybe where we were both at on Saturday night, Merrittville Speedway. Pretty solid night of racing, in my opinion.
Yep, definitely an awesome night. Mat Williamson was his first time showing up all season, and same winners in the mini stock and street stocks, LaFontaine and Bailey, showing that they're strong, and Cody McPherson 2 in a row now, and Williamson picked up the mods like everyone thought, but he definitely had to work for it, and he might not even have been the fastest car, probably real close. Those 2 lap cars definitely opened the door for him, and he took advantage of it. That was like his only shot. I didn't think he was going to get there, to be honest.
Definitely opportunistic on Maddie's part. I mean, I again kind of thought as soon as Lindbergh started to check out, I was like, oh boy, here we go again. It's going to be another
It was definitely the Matt and Gary show.
Lindbergh dominating drive because that car looked good, and Matt had a lot of speed in his heat, so I knew he was going to be in there, but
Yep.
I didn't think he had anything to run him down. Like that was an impressive drive.
Yeah, in the heats, I was sitting with my buddy Chris Long from RCM Racing, and he had his lap times going, and Matt was like a high 15.6 or mid 15.6, and he won his heat by 5 seconds. And then Gary's heat, he was like a low 7 and won his heat by 4.5 seconds, so they were definitely right there in the heats. And then, Gary just looked super fast on the top.
Yeah, class of the
Yep.
field, for sure. And then I don't know. I don't think there was anything that Gary could have done in that case. There was just a too wide battle in front of him with those lap cars. Like,
Yeah.
It's not like the other. I guess it was
Not without
last week
being
where we were
dirty.
talking about how Gary was kind of running the middle.
Yep.
Yeah, we were talking about how Gary was running the middle. This time he was definitely way more
Yep.
committed to the top and had the top working. So I figured he'd be able to get through lap traffic when they're stacked up like 2 by 2 right in front of you. There's not much you're gonna do.
What happens is like sometimes the lap cars won't be handling quite as good, and they'll get into the no man's land that Pete Bicknell kind of talked about in his episode, where you kind of slide across 4, and then so if you're railing the top and you don't quite see that coming, that's where you have to check up just that split second, and that can make it or break it, especially when you're in a nonstop battle. They were battling for 10 laps there, Matty on the bottom, Gary on the top, just nonstop back and forth.
Yeah.
Definitely a good race.
Yeah, it was good. And then Matty ultimately comes away with the win there. Like you touched on McPherson, a couple other drivers having some great nights in the mods. I've been really impressed with how Chad Chevalier has started this year. Another top 5 for Chad.
Yep.
I really thought he has looked impressive. Like I don't know if it's necessarily winning speed just yet, but he's definitely one of the cars to watch. And of course, Ryan Susi, our guest last week, second again. I don't want to start calling him Mr. Second Place, but man, like at Merrittville, that might be his new nickname.
Yep. Was he second or didn't he fail back to 4th or so?
So he fell back, right? And then he was able to reel in after Matty got by Lindbergh. Lindbergh actually fell back, and I think it was either the last lap or maybe the second last lap that I think Susi was able to catch and pass.
That's my mistake.
Yeah, pass Lindbergh. So, and then Danny O'Brien also rounding out the top 5 in the modified.
Yeah. So Susi, definitely good for him because Susi broke in the hot laps, right? So definitely good for them to get the rear end changed and then win his heat and then get back up to second, like you said. Definitely a good run for him.
Yeah, it was a big rebound. Another driver that was a little just so close. I don't want to say it was a heartbreaker, but it was good to see how much speed this car had. Was in the Right Choice Auto and Leisure Sportsman, Justin Sharp in the 8S.
Yeah.
Led most of that race, it felt like anyways, and then just couldn't quite close the deal at the end.
Yeah, Sharpie's got a few wins in his sportsman career. Got to be getting close to 10 or even more than that now, I'd see. But whenever he wins, it always seems like that. He's railing the top, got the right rear in the cushion. Those are usually Sharpie nights. And he almost had another one there on Saturday, and his buddy Cody McPherson just nipped him. And definitely a good race there. Cody definitely had to work for it this week as well. Wasn't as much as a checkout fest as the week before. So definitely an awesome race in the sportsman too.
Yep, and then there's some typical names in the Sportsman top five as well. Brad Rouse, Rob Knapp had a good run in the 2K, bringing in a home fourth, and Adam Leslie, another driver I've kind of watched.
Knapp's rolling this year.
I thought Leslie's had some great speed to start.
Yep, he picked up a new to him chassis, I think, from Brad Rouse. It's a newer BRP, a couple years old, I think, and he's definitely got her dialed in a little bit. I was talking to them boys before the races started, and they're definitely loving the new car, and definitely going to see him in victory lane before the end of the year, I'm pretty sure.
And then the Hoosier Stocks, we had the duel on the dirt, the Instapanels duel on the dirt. First home race for them, and Dave Bailey ends up winning it. But I gotta say, it was not exactly a typical dominating fashion win for Bailey. He had to work for that. There was,
Mm-hmm.
I think, the gap is kind of narrowing in that class at least.
Yep. Yeah, last year Bailey didn't win as much as like the years before where he was so dominant. Like it seemed like every week he was winning all three. Last year that seemed to happen not quite as much. I don't think I even interviewed him at Humberstone, did I? I'm not even sure. Maybe once. I never interviewed lots of different other people, but he won a few at Merrittville. But like definitely the field is catching up. There was no Ryan Beagle this week, I noticed when I was watching. That's definitely Ryan was fast the week before. Good battle with Dave. So no Beagle this week, but yeah, Dave had to work. He started pretty far back, I think, so he had to make a little work of it. And yeah, good race in the street stocks as well.
Yeah, he started ninth, and then Ron Logie also started
Yeah, that's who
11th
it was.
and rallied up to second. So
Yeah. Logie, good run
yeah,
for
so give a
second.
call to Logie. I mean, he's got a lot of
Yep, with
speed, and he was involved in an incident too. I'm pretty sure he
yeah, you
had
just read my mind.
maybe part of the right front knocked off.
Yeah, he was in
Yeah,
that lap one Murray
so
spin.
damaged car up to second.
Yep, good run for him.
And then looking throughout, I thought the modified lights put on a really really good race, especially amongst the top four.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much Bigelow, May, Winger, Slater, just all
Usual
dicing between
suspects.
themselves for the entire time. Yeah, usual suspects, but uh, sometimes it's really fun when the top four cars kind of come together and they look so even like that, right?
Yeah, as long as they're not single file or anything, which they weren't. They were like too wide, too deep for the whole feature. It felt like, and Bigelow was able to hold them off. Sucked not to see Bigelow in the Sportsman this week, but he was able to pick up the Mod Light win over Winger. Yeah, and he's definitely looking fast too in that four car. He definitely almost took that one as well.
Mm-hmm. And then we had the V6s early on, so that was a good to see the V6 guys get back out, and then the mini stocks as well. Our Van Sickle Pet Valley PV on the lane, 4 cylinders. Tyler LaFontaine wins another one, but he had to work for it. That was not necessarily an easy race for LaFontaine to dominate.
No, Luvac was definitely rolling in that 14 Mustang. Definitely don't see Mustangs up front as much as you used to. But Luvac definitely had the 14 rolling. Sucks he missed the scales and had to get disqualified, but he was definitely giving them battles early. But I forget who else was up there in that one. That was the first feature
Well,
of the night.
Clinton Barrick was
Yeah, that's
in
him.
that red Pontiac.
Yeah, he's a new guy.
Yeah, he's had a good start. He's had a good start to the year. He came on pretty strong late last year, and then if I have the story correctly, and I'm sure somebody out there who's listening can give us an email or give us
Mm-hmm.
a stat correction via or one of our social feeds at Southern Ontario Dirt Show. I'm pretty sure he has joined the TMR gang, so he's got good equipment,
Yep.
and I expect Barrick to probably be in victory lane pretty quick. Honestly, DeBoer also had a great run. Trevor
That's who it was.
DeBoer,
Yeah, Oswegan
Austin
boy.
Worstrow was a bit of a pinball out there, but he brought it home fourth.
Yep.
And Fabio Oliveri rounding out our top five in that one.
Yeah, all good cars there in the mini stocks as well. Just lots of good cars in this region. That's why I love going to the races every weekend. Just every single class is full of competition.
A lot of competitive cars, especially at Merrittville right now. And then of course Ransomville got going this weekend as well.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Maddie won that one as well.
Yep.
Had to work for it. It was Susie and Lindbergh up front early, and then they had a little bit of a mishap and took them out of the picture, unfortunately, and then kind of fell in Matt's hands, and him and Rudolph put on a good show, and Mike Bowman, I think that was his first race of the year for Mike. He finished fifth, so good run for Mike. He's a local boy.
Yeah, started
You know
11th
what?
too, so big pickup for
Yeah,
him.
good run for Mike through the field.
And give a call to Glenn Stiers. Even brought it home eighth after starting 14th. So sometimes it pays to just be able to survive. Sometimes, right?
Yeah, that's Ransomville can be a little tougher on tires than some of our local tracks, so it's definitely a little bit different game over there. But it looked like it had some moisture in the track on Friday. And a lot of people were surprised to see the Zero Glenn tires up there at Ransomville. They were thinking he was going to run Merrittville because he didn't show up on Saturday, which sucks a little bit. But yeah, he had a good run Friday night, so Glenn's definitely trying a bunch of different tracks with that Zero car.
And you mentioned that Ransomville is a little bit harder on tires. So for some of us that might not know, what makes it a harder on tire track?
Well, I haven't been there, and they have put new dirt on it, so I haven't been there since then. But back in the day, it's just a little bit more abrasive surface. Like Brockville's kind of similar in Cornwall. There's just a little bit more rocks in the surface, and that's just all it is. Just those little tiny little things in the track. Just not as much pure clay, and they can get a little bit more abrasives on the tires.
Yep, true. And we got turning our attention to next week's action. Super Dirt Car Series is going to be racing next week, so probably the night we're going to be recording the podcast, or maybe we might wait till the day after that. But May 18th, Thunder on Thousand Islands at Can-Am Speedway, so that's going to be exciting.
Yep, should have at least Matt and Limburg in the show, I'm thinking, from around here. So I think those two are doing the full tour. Well, Matt for sure is doing the full tour. I'm pretty sure Limburg, that was the plan in his 28 car.
Yeah.
So both those guys will be down there for sure. And Can-Am's one of the biggest tracks around. It's a big 5/8. And it's sometimes, hopefully, it can rubber up sometimes, which kind of sucks, and it can be around the bottom. But if they can keep the moisture in it and keep a good bottom and top, it'll definitely put on a good race. It's so fast there, like super fast. Big 5/8 mile, like almost the size of Cayuga was, pavement track around here.
Yeah, I was gonna talking about Maddie, who's gonna be coming up here shortly as our guest this week. Kind of a little bit of a tangle, I guess that you could say, with Creedon on Tuesday night when he wrapped up a win at Accord in the short track Super Series. And this is kind of what I wanted to get into. So we also saw over for the big guys, you know, in the NASCAR world, which is a world that I was far more familiar with before I got into the dirt world. Joey Logano, William Byron, they tangled this week, and I think it was Parker Kligerman was doing some driver analysis for NBC, and he talked about how the win and you're in playoff format has kind of changed NASCAR in terms of putting in more pressure, more incentive to make bold moves like that. And he's seeing it start to trickle down into some of the lower classes, the truck series, into the, you know, ARCA Menards. What about in the dirt world? Do you think there's younger drivers coming of age, and maybe drivers who have grown up with, you know, this heightened incentive to win, that are making things more aggressive at our local, you know, local scenes, or even just, you know, throughout the Niagara region, Southern Ontario, and even into Western New York? Or do you think like the dirt world is just its own world and it's always kind of been this aggressive?
Okay, well, if we're gonna compare, like you said, Matt's deal at Accord last night to like Sunday, the only like to me, Matt just moved him up a little bit, like, and Creedon still finished second, you know what I mean? Whereas Logano sailed her in there, and Byron ain't no finishing second. Like, so, and so definitely on the short track world, that's like kind of the norm. Matt did get into him a little bit. We'll ask him when he's coming up here in a minute. But yeah, I didn't think it was all that dirty. Like Creedon, if he was fast enough, he could have got back to him and did it back to him, right? That's probably what Creedon was mostly mad about. Couldn't get back to him and give it back. Like he even had a chance on a restart and couldn't get back to him. So that's probably what he was mad about a little bit. Was it a little bit of a? He was definitely going for the win, no doubt about that. Like can't take it like that. Like definitely on a small track like that, that's kind of dirt modified racing a little bit.
Yeah, I just think there's like, at least in terms of what I've watched with, you know, locally, and what I've watched, you know, over the years, it just seems like there's a different respect amongst the dirt community of like, you know, there's so many guys who are working on these cars themselves. There's so many guys who you know, give a hand in doing the repairs, that there's like a different respect where we're going to run each other really hard. But at the end of the day, I still want you to finish. I just don't want you to finish ahead of me.
Yeah, there's a ton of camaraderie I find in the world of outlaw sprint cars. Modifieds and late models seems to be a little bit more individualistic a little bit, but there's still always return on, like all the tour guys, like those guys are rolling up and down the road seeing each other all the time, whereas Matt and Creedon don't race it against each other quite as much as say like a Matt Shepard, right? They race together all the time on the Super Car Series, whereas Matt and Creedon are just getting into it now because Matt's running the short track Super Series this year, which is good to see. And yeah, but definitely a lot of younger kids are, you got to go for the win. Like if I'm owning a car and you're not going for the win, I'm probably going to fire you. So if you especially if you're in a
You're gonna find somebody else
yeah,
who
if
can
you're
do
in a
it.
hired ride, you got to get going. That's the way it is.
For sure. And we're going to catch up with Mat Williamson right now on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show.
One track to go see a race at.
I know, right? I just thought of that. I was like, there's like so many great tracks, and like obviously we've got so many great ones close to us, but with one facility you have to like.
I've never been it, but Port Royal's got to be one of them. I was going to ask Matt's favorite tracks. I bet you that's one of them.
Speaking of Port Royal, we're joined now by somebody who's quite familiar with that particular track. It's Mat Williamson. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I like the podcast. It's a pretty cool deal you guys got going on.
Yeah, it's just getting going, so we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
And I guess perfectly timed. You got a win last night in car number 3, and you're the third episode guest, I should say, because I guess Shane would technically be the third guest. We had 2 guests last episode. Doesn't count.
Yeah, I mean, you guys got something cool going on. I mean, it's always cool to talk about local racing. I mean, I can race all over the country, and I still, my heart's still back at home, so it's nice to listen to what's going on home when you're on the road, and podcasts are the way to do it.
So let's get into the bull ring battle last night, your freshest success, because we also have to get into your success at Merrittville over the weekend. But tell us a little about last night.
Yeah, we went down to Accord Speedway last night. Drew a good number in the heat race, won the heat race, drew a good number in the feature, started outside pole, and got the lead early. Danny Creedon got by me in lap traffic, and then a couple restarts. One he got away, and we got back into lap traffic again, and then the second one came out pretty quick. We got a good restart, drove into turn 1 and 2, threw a slider on him, left him a lane on the outside. He kind of turned down, and we got his left front to my right rear tire. Kind of very similar to what happened earlier in the race. His right front got into my left rear tire on lap 1. Just hard racing. I mean, it was a battle at the bull ring. There's a reason why they don't call it the ballet at the bull ring. It's a tight little racetrack. We're turning 12-second laps, and cool place to be. So luckily we got the win for Jeff and Harry, and hopefully we can build some momentum and keep the North Series going strong.
Yeah, that's definitely a small track, and I pretty much said the same thing when me and Jonathan were talking earlier. It's definitely dirt modified racing. Like, we got those big bumpers on the side for a reason, and you're definitely getting paid to win, not getting paid to finish second. So especially on a small track like that, it's not like it was Port Royal or nothing, you know what I mean? So definitely whatever happened there. Just talk about Jeff winning during his 50th season or 50th year in business, and at his home track, basically Accord there, his 2 home tracks, Accord and Orange County, being close to his shop. So talk about winning in the 50th year of his business and at one of his home tracks.
Yeah, what Jeff and Harry have done with Barron's is pretty cool. 50 years in business is like something that everybody probably aspires to do. Anytime you can start a business and being that successful for 50 years is damn impressive. So to get the win for him and Harry, and in kind of the 50th year anniversary month, was very cool. And like you said, it's their home track. I mean, it's only an hour down the road, and I think it means a lot to Jeff to win that race. We've had pretty good success there in the past. We probably should have won 3 years ago or 2 years ago. Got in a jingle early. I think Jimmy Horton spun out in front of me, and had to go to the back, and then came from last to get the second, and got put tail on a deal where I felt like it was just a racing deal. Unfortunate. Probably deserved it. Probably didn't really deserve it. So we had that happen, and then last year we ran second to Anthony Borrego, and he had a really good car. He's raced there a bunch of times, won that race a bunch of times. So we felt good leaving last year, and then this year when we drew a good number, we knew we had to capitalize on it.
And then this past Saturday, I should say, at Merrittville Speedway, you find victory lane again with a great battle with Gary Lindbergh, one of your home track rivals, if you would, and then now Gary kind of following you around. Just talk to us about a guy like Gary Lindbergh and battling with him both at Merrittville and then out on the Super Dirt Car Tour Series. Like, how much do you guys find each other pushing each other? Making you guys better both at home and then when you go out to compete against bigger fields and more talent, more diverse lineups.
Yeah, it was a good race on Saturday. I always enjoy racing with Gary. It's fun. We actually I hitched a ride to Bridgeport with him and Darren, his car owner Darren Kendrick. So that works out good. I mean, his his wife is my girlfriend's sister, so he's essentially, we're almost family, and we hang out all the time. We were just on the phone just before this interview. We were talking for half hour about rims and tires and water in the grass, and just bullshit. And so it's cool to be able to race, at the level that we're racing at, and as many racetracks as we get to go to. It's cool that he gets come to Eastern States and Oswego, and we can kind of make it a family event. We can have my girlfriend, his family, everybody. They enjoy being together, and when they get to go to the races and hang out together and watch the most of us, it makes it pretty cool. So it was a good battle on Saturday. I mean, I don't know if I would have got him if it wasn't for lap traffic. I watched the video uh, over and over again, and the move going into turn one with me, him, and I'm not sure if it was Tanner Podwinski on the outside or if it was Brandon Gruhl, but it was
I think it was Tanner.
it was quite the move there when the three of us went into turn one. So good race between me and Gary, and hopefully we can keep making each other better. We lean on. I talked to him. He was the one that told me I need to go around Ransomville wide open, and I'll try and help him when I can. I went and scaled his car at the beginning of the year when he didn't feel like he was that good. So, as much as we're rivals and competitors on the racetrack, we still try and help each other out and be successful together.
Just talk about the line you were using, because Gary, I think the top was definitely fastest at Merrittville, and Gary definitely had the right rear buried in there, and you definitely weren't gaining on him, like you said. I was wondering if you're going to get him, and just talk about how they have to race when you have to go outside of the optimal line, and then like how hard it is when you see, like for him, when he was leading, he knew you were at the bottom, but you didn't know what you were going to do in the lap traffic, and then when that car just slid across, and what Pete called, like everyone knows at Merrittville, is like the dead zone coming across four. That's basically all that did it there. So just talk about the line you were running when he had the optimal line.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, 3 and 4, you certainly had to be on the top. 1 and 2, I felt like, getting into 1 through the middle, you didn't really have much. It was like you were kind of hung. When I got to the middle of 2, I'm like, man, I'm wasting a lot of time getting out there. So I went to the bottom, and um, I was too tight to really run right around the guardrail, so I had to kind of drive the car in hard, but slow down enough to get the brown getting out of turn 2. So it was characteristic. Which Merrittville, I mean, it's one of the best places when it has some brown in the racetrack. Like when it
Agreed.
gets dead slippery, it makes it hard to pass, but it's still good racing. But when it has a race like Saturday night, when the bottom 1 and 2 is good and the top of 3 and 4, it makes it really characteristic, and it makes for some good racing. So luckily the bottom was there. I don't know as to say that we'd probably be even in the top 3 if the bottom 1 and 2 wasn't there, because we were just kind of riding around following people around the top. We weren't very good on the top.
Mm-hmm.
And how much does coming home to Merrittville on a Saturday night, is that more of like, I don't want to call it practice for you, but when you're racing all these other tours, all these other racetracks around the Northeast and around Southern Ontario, does does it almost feel more like your chance to really hone your racecraft as opposed to a race that you want to go out and win, or is there just the field is just so deep that you kind of have to go out and challenge for the win, otherwise you're just riding at a place like Merrittville?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. When the field is deep, I mean, Freddie Carlton, Gary Lemberg, Pete Bicknell, Todd Gordon, Chad Chevalier, Ryan Susie, Danny O'Brien. We can keep naming
Yep.
names. And every one of those names have won big races and won a lot of races in the past. So, and I'm not missing out on people. I'm not skipping out on people because they haven't won
No, it's
races.
hard to name them.
Yeah, I'm
Yep.
naming names that come to my top of my head. So it's tough. It's definitely not a place that I go to and say we're going to win tonight. We still try hard, just as hard as we would if we went to Fulton on a Saturday night. But you're right in saying that we use it for honing in on things, because I've had so many laps around Merrittville, and I got a good feeling of a race car there that if I try something, I can tell the guys, hey, it made me tighter, it made me looser. it made me feel this, and I have such a good feeling on what it's going to do to the race car that we use it kind of, to experiment. I remember back in 2019, um, we came up with something that was totally off of what we had been doing as far as like springs and panhard locations and wedge, and it was kind of something that we had been working on, and I brought it to Merrittville, and we wedged up that night. We changed our panhard location, and we put these different springs on, and went on to win the Centennial and Dirt Week and whatever else it was. So Merrittville's a place that we try stuff at, and I think that's why sometimes I'm either in the contention for a win or in the contention to run 10th. So it might hurt us sometimes, but we're not racing for points. We're there just to kind of be around home and enjoy the night and have fun racing again. And um, if we don't win, it is what it is. We will learn from it and go from there.
All right, you also won Friday night at Ransomville. Looked like Gary and Ryan were definitely the cars to beat at the beginning before they had their little deal. So talk about the car and the different car owner you drive for there at Ransomville. You got like 4 different cars going on.
Yeah, that's Paul Went and Pete Coco's car. The deal came about in 2019. 2018. We were at Syracuse, and Paul was cooking chicken wings, and I was grinding tires, and I was trying to get tires ground before we had to go for the mandatory autograph session, and I was stressing, and he come over, and I was grinding tires in a fire suit, and he was like blown away that I looked like I was 18 years old and trying to grind tires, sign autographs, and do everything that we were doing for Oswego. So we met down there, and I had been talking with Johnny Coco about driving their car at Ransomville and getting back to Ransomville, and it worked out really well that we came together, because I love going over there Friday. They got such a good group of guys, and I'm blessed to be able to race for Paul and Pete, and I was happy. We went to Orange County there at the beginning of the year with their car in the small block race, and got into a big wreck, caused a front clip, radiator, about $8,500 worth of damage. So to come out of the box at Ransomville and win with that car after we put a front clip on it and they fixed it, and it was special to me, and I think it meant a lot to them too.
Chatting with Mat Williamson on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show. Matt, what's the biggest difference going and running, 75 laps in a super dirt car event versus, maybe a 30 or 35 lap feature you might see at some of the local tracks? What do those extra 30 to 40 laps feel like to you as a driver?
It's surprising. Like, some races you go to, they feel really long, and some races you go to that it's just like a normal deal. Like last night was 50 laps. Obviously, Accord's a pretty short racetrack, so it went by pretty fast. And then you go to a place like Bridgeport and you run 75 laps there, or 60, whatever it was that we ran, and it's like, man, you need 30 more of these, But then you go to a place like Cornwall, and your neck hurts on the left side, your arms hurt, and you're like, this 50 lapper feels like it's 200. So it really depends on how the race plays out, caution wise, and sometimes Merrittville 35 laps feels like it's forever, and sometimes it feels like it's 2 seconds. So it all depends on how the race plays out and how many cautions we get and how long the tow trucks take. So.
All right, I got a little different question. I always wanted to know why'd you pick the number 6? It's kind of like for Merrittville, that's like a Davey Moore number. I don't know if that's probably not why you picked it, but why'd you pick the number 6? Land on you. It's been your number your whole life, really.
Yeah, I was a big Mark Martin fan when I was growing up. He was good when I was really young. I remember when I was old enough.
I remember that now. Your first kart had his style 6 on it. Now that you say that.
Yeah. So it was probably because of him. But then as I got older, I kind of regretted being a fan of Mark Martin, because he kind of sucked when I was like 13, 14, towards the end of his career. But, I always thought he was a good race car driver, and I liked the way that he carried himself. So I did it because of him.
Yeah, that's cool.
I was going to say, is there one track and one car that you've raced so many different places? If there's one track, one car that you had to pick to drive for the rest of your driving career until they had to pry you from the race car, where would you pick to run, and what car would you run?
That's a good question. There's like 2 ways to look at it. If if I was trying to do it to be successful, I'd probably do like, a small block at Merrittville for the rest of your life so that you could rack up the wins. But if I was doing it, to do like once in a lifetime, never get to do it ever again, you'd say like a Formula One car, um,
Yeah.
somewhere like Italy or,
Monza.
yeah, Monza, any of them places. A sprint car at Port Royal would be a pretty
Whew.
cool deal to run.
Yeah.
I'm sure Travis can attest to that. I mean, that place banging the boards with a sprint car. I drove a sprint car at Merrittville, and I can never imagine, and I've raced a modified at Port Royal. I can never imagine the size of the cojones on them sprint car drivers driving into turn 1 and turn 3 at Port Royal. So that would be cool to do. Late model at Eldora. There's so many different ways you can look at that question and talk for hours and hours and hours.
Yep. Just so we talked about your local ride. Just talk about the Buzz 2 ride and that car that like you won the championship in 2019. You kind of had a comeback there. You had to come from second. You had a better year that year, come from second, and then got mad at the end. And then last year you kind of had to battle to get to second. Like you had a little bit of a struggle time. So talk about how you're gonna erase that this year and get a better run and bring that title back to Canada.
Yeah, we're hoping we can battle throughout the year and not fall behind and not have them bad races that we've had in the past. Spot works hard, harder than anybody on that deal, at being prepared and making sure that we have the right stuff. And he came to the races with me last night, and I'm so lucky to drive for great car owners, Paul, Jeff, Harry, Buzz, Brian, everybody. I mean, and we're one big team, which is nice. So like Spot coming to the races with me last night, we learn and we build on the stuff that we learn from one car to the other. So we're gonna go to Can-Am on Wednesday of next week and try and get a good run there and
Usually
hopefully
pretty good there.
start building. Yeah, we haven't we've ran good there in the past and had really good runs where you go into the place and you walk in the gate and you're like, man, it's my night tonight. And then you go there and like last year with Buzz's car, we ran like I think 18th. It was one of our worst runs on the series, and that place it suits my driving style. So it's frustrating running bad there, but getting the run out of Bridgeport and finishing fourth at Bridgeport and getting a good start to the series was probably the biggest hurdle we had for the series. So we're looking forward to Can-Am. Spot's had the car ready for a few weeks now, and it'd be nice to get back on that thing. I enjoyed driving it. It's a great looking car, and it's always fun going to the races with Buzz, Brian, Spot, Ernie, Dan, all the guys that help out that deal.
All right, Matt, one more before we let you go. This is more of a back in the day. Sorry, Johnny.
Okay, go for it. I want the stories. This is why I have you around, Travis. I need the stories. I need the back in the day questions.
Wayne Kahn.
Uh-oh.
Wayne Kahn is one of your biggest supporters locally, no doubt there for over a decade. But back in your second or third sportsman race ever, you were leading the whole feature. And like you had the grandstand stun. Here's this little 13-year-old kid about to win the sportsman feature in his second feature ever. And then there was a caution, and who else but Wayne Kahn pulled up beside you, and you went into turn one and made a little mistake. Do you even remember that?
Oh yeah.
And then Wayne ended up taking the win. Does he still rib you about that or what?
Well, I think that's why he supports me so much because he feels bad that he took it away from candy away from the baby. So
Yeah.
I wasn't really that good of a sportsman racer. I mean, you knew me when I raced sportsman. I never really won a ton of races or anything. So to win the second race out would have been pretty cool. And just I think it was caution free, and then like you said, lap 21 or 22 or 23 out of a 25 lap, the caution come out, and he pulled out next to me under yellow and waved at me, and he was
psyched you out good.
He was the man back then.
He was the man. Yeah, don't forget that part. Wayne Kahn was the man in sportsman back then.
Yeah. So I drove into one, and I said, under yellow, I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to beat him into one, and I beat him into one, and through the center of 1 and 2, I spun around in front of the whole field, and miraculously nobody hit me. So it was a cool story. I mean, we still talk about it probably once a year. Every time he needs to put me back in my place, he'll tell me that he kicked my ass back then. So works out to be a good.
All right, that's awesome, Matt.
All right, Matt.
All right.
Thanks for joining us, and good luck the rest of the way. I was looking over your 2022 projections, and 87 race starts. It's going to be a busy year for you across a lot of different cars and a lot of different series. So good luck with it. Thanks for taking the time tonight and being a part of the Southern Ontario Dirt Show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. This podcast is pretty cool, and like you said, 87 races. We're going to do quite a bit, and it's cool to have Canadians back in the States and back to normal, and hopefully we can talk on Saturday night again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again.
All right, thanks, guys.
And the checkered is out on another episode of the Southern Ontario Dirt Show. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe for future episodes. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Southern Ontario Dirt Show. Have a question for the show? Email us, southernontariodirtshow@gmail.com. Thanks for supporting local racing in Southern Ontario, and we'll see you at the track.